Hey everyone, I'm Hayden and I'm one of the co-founders and CEO here at Fellow. Welcome to the Fellow 4.5 launch event. Today's theme is moving beyond AI note-taking. So what you've noticed in the last couple of launches is we've launched these AI features. We've brought the Fellow CoPilot into life, and it's been joining meetings, it's been adding value. And today we're gonna go a step beyond that. Today, Fellow is gonna be transformed from this product that you use to a product that starts to bring you insights. It's going to use AI to help you be on top of your game, for you to be a better operator, for you to be a better meeting host. And it's going to feel very special because this is the beginnings, and it's some stuff that we've been using internally now for a few weeks. And I have to tell you that it feels magical. So I'm excited to show you what all this stuff is, how we're going to incorporate AI into the most important aspects of your workflows. And it's going to be an exciting ride. So buckle up and let's begin. Hey, Manuela, how's it going?
Hi, Aiden. I'm doing really well. Very excited to be here as always, because there are so many exciting things that we're announcing today.
Yeah, honestly, it feels like such a rebirth for everything going on at Fellow. AI is changing the world, and it's very interesting. Like, we so happen to be in the one industry and the one product where AI can really, really make a big difference. And so we're super excited. Like, you should just see the virtual halls of the Fellow office. Like, it's buzzing with excitement. Like, every week in our town hall, we see new features coming in, new developments. The pace at which we're building things is incredible. So yeah, super excited to show everybody some of the stuff we're working on. And there's just so much stuff. So much good stuff.
And these events are so special to us because we also get to see all the excitement in the chat section, users from all over the world. So thank you so much for joining us live. This means a lot to us and to the team in general. And yeah, we can't wait to show you what's in store for today.
Yeah. So, the theme of the event today is beyond AI note-taking, right? And so what Fellow is all about at the end of the day is this isn't AI for AI's sake. We're here to solve a problem, like a global problem, which is, what we call the meeting problem. We want to solve the world's meeting problem. We want to make it so that people spend less time in meetings and make sure that all meeting time is productive. And for us to do that, what we've done is we've really been thoughtful around how to incorporate AI, how to really create an awesome meeting co-pilot that's going to help you and be there alongside you during your day with everything that you do. So with that said, why don't we just jump right in and get to some of the amazing things that our team has been working on, and then we can talk about it a bit more. But while we do that, Manuel, maybe it would be nice to recap for everybody some of the things that we announced on what the Fellow AI Copilot does in previous launches.
Of course. So as some of you might remember, in our previous launch, we talked about Fellow's brand new AI Copilot. It was brand new back then. And obviously, it does things such as transcribing your meetings, getting summaries from those meetings, and also getting recordings from those meetings, right? So what you would expect a great AI meeting assistant to do for you, that's what the Fellow AI Copilot does. But today, we're here to show that it can do so much more than that.
Yeah, so super excited to do that. So one of the things that for everybody who's been starting to use the meeting Copilot, what you've started to notice is that you can't really enter a room without it. It almost feels lonely when you do, right? It feels like you're missing something. And so more and more people start by using it for some of their meetings, maybe some things like project meetings, things that are obvious where you need to know what happened. If you miss the meeting, you can catch up. The decisions are tracked very precisely. But as you start using it, then you start to think, I should use this for everything. And, that's what we've been doing at Fellow. We use it for our one-on-one meetings. We use it for our executive staff meeting. We use it for our town halls. We literally use it for everything. And once you start to do that, you start to get to the point where you kind of want a single place to manage all of these things. And that's why today we're launching this new feature that we're calling our meeting recordings library. So let me show you how to get there. You can get there by going to the home panel and clicking on this recordings button. Some of you may have had access to this. It is a beta feature, but now we're making it broadly available. And so the second you go in there, you see exactly what you would expect, which is you get all of your different meetings that you've recorded. So previously, to get to these things, you would have to go to the meeting, find it, and then, it's beautifully integrated into your Fellow note. But this is one place where everything is located here.
Yeah, and Aiden, my favorite thing about this recordings library is that it brings together your recordings from different video call providers, right? So sometimes I'm invited to Google Meet calls, and sometimes I join Zoom calls or MS Teams calls. And in the past, it would have been a struggle to find these meeting recordings because they come from very different places. But now I come to the recordings library and I can find them in one place. So centralization is big for productivity.
Yeah, this is that one central place, as you said it. Now, one of the secrets we're going to reveal about the way that we do these launches is that I know everybody thinks that we're super eloquent. We just turn on the camera and we start speaking and it sounds amazing from the get-go. And while Manuela is like that, I need a little bit more practice. So she graciously practices with me. And as you can see, we did one of those practices yesterday. And so what we're going to do, and the reason we're hyping this up, is when I click this button, you're going to see a brand new interface. And we're calling this brand new interface the new AI meeting recap. So let's go ahead and click it. So this is what we talked about yesterday. And there's a lot going on here. So maybe let me start with Manuela. What do you see here?
I mean, very exciting to see a summary of the meeting, but there are some new things I'm seeing that were in there for our previous product launch. For example, chapters. This is brand new, right?
Yeah, so that's a very, very good observation. So there's this thing called chapters. And before, it was kind of hard to navigate the meeting. It's like a table of contents. I mean, a lot can go on in a meeting. And so this is your table of contents for the meeting. Yes, you can see it down here, but the other really nice thing is you can actually see it up here. As I hover over the different sections of the recording, you can actually see that incorporated there as well. If you click on the time icon, it'll go and play exactly that portion of the meeting. And when you click on it, it will give you the summary for that portion. So if you're trying to really navigate a meeting, go to the exact place that you want. You can see the chapters and go to the specific place that you're looking at. And the other thing is this edit function. So now you can make changes to this. So if the CoPilot gets something slightly wrong, or if you want to add some detail in there or change something up, this is your opportunity to make those changes here as well.
Yeah, and my favorite thing about this is that these bullet points also serve as meeting minutes, right? Or meeting notes. Like when you expand that, it's like someone, like a very smart executive assistant had taken meeting minutes on our meeting.
Yeah, it's an amazing way to summarize the entire meeting. This is the meeting summary itself, and very similar to what you saw in chapters, you can edit this too. And then there's this other section called action items. And so when we look at the action items, these are things that typically, in traditional way of using Fellow, you would jot down the action items as people are going through the meeting. And while you can still do that, what's really nice is that Fellow now incorporates all those things into its AI meeting recap. So what it's going to do is it's going to suggest the action items. Now, we're not going to automatically add these to your Fellow note because we want you to take a look, make sure that they make sense to you. And those are truly action items that you're going to record. And what's nice about it is you can see as I hover over it, it gives me the option of adding it to the Fellow note. There's this plus button. So as soon as I click on this, you see it says added, and then it actually gets added to the standard Fellow interface. So very valuable. And of course, decisions are here as well. So these are the major things that were decided or the major key points of the meeting. And you can obviously edit those things as well. So some traditional things here too, you can obviously download. You can obviously share this recap with people outside of your team or organization. By default, these things are private, right? So you've got the clip. You can copy the link. This is private. You can change the settings so that people in your workspace can have access to the link if you give them the link. And of course, you can also make it public there as well. But the transcript we talked about last time, so that's, obviously also still there. It's really great because you can search through things. So for example, if I search for the word decision, you can see how many times it was mentioned. I can go to those exact places where it was mentioned. I can click on this link icon and and then it'll copy it to my clipboard, for example. So lots of different options for you to be able to do that.
Eden, there are two use cases that I want to talk about. The first one is when you cannot attend a meeting, right? Like, I think this is super helpful when perhaps you're out of office or you did not attend a meeting. It's a super easy way to catch up on everything that happened. But the second use case is sometimes you don't have to attend a meeting. And Eden, you talk about this, and I like the way you frame it, of you have to be a meeting participant, not just a meeting attendee. So can you tell us about that?
It's a very good point, because the way that we like to think about it is, our objective is to reduce your meeting footprint. We want to make sure that you spend only the amount that you have to in meetings. Meetings are very valuable when done right, but you want to minimize the amount of effort in any particular bucket. So for meetings, the way that we can do that, it's nice to say, we want you to have meetings with less than 7 people. It's nice for us to say that, but how do you actually implement that in practice? Because a lot of companies say it, a lot of companies have a wiki page that talks about it, but how do you actually make it happen? Part of it is you have to have the tools so people don't have FOMO. And they have FOMO because they're like, well, if I wasn't in the room, then I'm not going to know what's going on, right? And I might not say a lot, but I might give you a sentence. That'll be it. So Fellow CoPilot solves this problem. You can consume the information afterwards. You can change the playback speed. It's really, really powerful. It solves the FOMO problem. So if you're really serious about having less people attend meetings, this is a really great way to do it. And on that note, I also want to show one more thing, which is stats. So what you will see once you start implementing this in your meetings is you're going to see for each speaker what the talk time was for each person. Now, this is a test video, so you don't see the numbers here, but it's really awesome. I've seen this in larger meetings, smaller meetings, and when you look at this, now you're going to be able to say, well, okay, this person said nothing in this meeting. And, when you see that 2 or 3 times, you start to think, hey, maybe this person should passively consume this content. They're not a meeting participant. Looks like they're a meeting attendee. Meeting attendees should consume this material async.
Yeah, they should consume the content async. Or it's also an opportunity for leaders to be a little self-aware about, okay, am I doing most of the talking in my meetings and not letting my team speak most of the time, right? So I think it provides a lot of interesting insights, both about who can consume the content async, but also about how could you make your meetings more inclusive so all the attendees perhaps have similar speaking times, right?
Yeah, so lots of value there. And there's one more thing that we want to talk about in this interface, and it appears at a few places, but this is probably the one that I'm most excited for today. Actually, before we go to the really, really big thing, let's talk about one smaller thing, which is going to be a huge, huge life improvement, which is this idea of taking portions of a meeting and sharing it with others. So one of the things that happens, from a communication perspective all the time is you have a one-on-one meeting or you're in some sort of a group meeting. And when you're in that meeting, there's a portion of that conversation or a learning or something that you want to share with others. And this is a communications nightmare. If you have someone, in your company that's really good at communicating, it's amazing. They go to the meeting, they go to their team meeting, they get the learnings, they come and share whatever they need to the people that are on their team, and it works great. Problem is, not every company has 100% of their staff in the super communicator level. Now, Fellow can help. This is where Fellow can help. So we built this new feature called Clips. And so you can see it over here. When I click on Clip, it gives you this very familiar interface. You can drag the handles from left to right to get the exact portion of that clip that you want to cut out. And you can click the video and it'll start playing. You can see this green little bar here that'll show you where you are, and you can kind of move this around as well just to make sure that you have the perfect clip. And then once you have that, you can press done. And it's the same sort of interface that you're used to. You can give this a title. You can change is it private, workspace, or public? And then you can copy that link and then you can send it on Slack. You can put it in an email. You can do whatever you'd like with it. So super, super powerful feature. And it's going to help you solve this communication problem of taking important information that happens somewhere and then sending it to people who need to know about it.
I love this feature, and I'm so excited for our users to try it and let us know how they're planning to use it. And speaking of users, Aiden, you have a very interesting story about a product leader and the way they're intending to use clips. So maybe you can tell us that story.
Yeah. So one of the customers that we're working on, told us about this problem. It's a big company. They hire people all the time and said that, every time we hire a new product manager, they ask these series of questions. And when they do, it effectively means I have to get on the phone and explain it to them. And, once I've done it once, now with clips, I can just take a portion of that conversation and say, hey, I just had this meeting. And even though nobody wants it right now, I predict that I'm going to answer this question again in the future. And so now what you can do is you can make a clip, put it in a wiki article in your onboarding documentation. And now you have a link so that any new person that joins the company can consume this information. My favorite part was this. So he said, every time the view count goes up on that clip, I know that I've saved a meeting. And that I thought was incredible.
I love that.
Okay, so on the clip, just because we're talking about view count, one thing that I didn't mention that's worth noting is that the recordings library that you're looking at, you can see that there's these little things here. So it actually will tell you the view count. It'll tell you, is this clip private to your workspace? Is it, a global clip? You can see if something's a clip or a full-on recording. So you can see all these things in your library. And of course, you can do things like search, right? So if I search for, anything, you can kind of narrow it down and find the exact things that you're looking for. So lots of really, really great things here.
Super helpful. Aiden, one of the things that I am very excited about is having a recording of all our town hall meetings in one place, for example. And like you said, it's great for onboarding, right? Like you could have like a list of important town hall meetings that new hires should watch because very important information was given there. So super, super excited about the clips feature.
Yeah. One of the things actually that this idea of, sending a link to a portion of a conversation that's super, super powerful is, a lot of times for remote and hybrid companies, if you want to operate well in a remote and hybrid environment, you've got to be really good at documentation. And so there's this saying that a lot of remote companies, including ours, use, which is when someone asks you a question, always respond with a link. So in other words, you ask me a question, I'm going to go document it first. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab that documentation and send you the link. And then now it can be reused. And so it might seem slow in the beginning, but it actually gets really fast over time because you'll never have to answer that question again. Beautiful concept. It's a little harder to implement in practice. I think what things like clips do is they solve this problem. So now you can answer the question and you don't have to do the documentation. You can literally grab the clip and it becomes documentation. And all of a sudden, I think with this little feature, we've changed the game and every remote and hybrid company can now be a better remote and hybrid company thanks to this feature. So anyway, very, very excited about it, as you can tell. But should we talk about one of the really, really big things?
Yes, I think we're both very excited about this one. So we're glad everyone has been super active in the chat section. And now let us know if you're excited to know what this feature is going to be about.
Yeah. I like the drum roll. This is good. Lots of excitement. Okay, so let's talk about this. So when I clicked a recording, one thing that you may have noticed is there's a brand new thing and we're calling it Ask CoPilot. So let me click on that. And you can see that I've been prompting this and there's a few things that I've been doing here. And so let's talk about exactly what this is. So this is a chat. When you first come in, you'll see something like this. Hi, I'm AI CoPilot. And you have this chat interface that you can now talk with. So this is really powerful. So this is, again, from our recording from yesterday. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say, question, because this is this was a dry run. So what if we say something like, what was the purpose of this meeting? And let's see what it answers. So it consumes all of the information from that meeting, and it just becomes a repository for you to be able to do that. So these demonstrate the new features Fellow has launched: chapters, action items, decisions, clips, stats. Well, that's pretty accurate. That's basically what we've talked about. So super, super powerful. Or if you say something, or if you're able to ask a question like, describe the clips feature, right? We haven't watched the video, but it's going to take the concepts that were talked about, and then it's going to be able to answer that. So
And it says, according to the transcript, the clips feature in Fellow allows users to create short video clips from a meeting. Very accurate and so helpful. Imagine like going into a meeting, perhaps you have, I'm not saying you should prepare for your meetings 10 minutes in advance, because you should prepare longer in advance. But let's say you have 10 minutes to prepare for a meeting. You come here, you ask Copilot, hey, what did we discuss last time? And you're ready to go for your next meeting.
You know what's really powerful about this? You saw how we demoed the clips feature today, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like we went in and, there was like minute this, we start talking about clips and then we stopped talking about clips and all the clip information was in this one segment. No. We talked about clips, then we went to another section, we showed the meeting recordings library, we talked about that, we gave some examples, and it synthesizes the information. So when you ask a question, it's not just going to a certain part of the meeting and then grabbing that information, it's like consuming all of the meeting, and then it's answering that based on that synthesis. That's really powerful. Like you talk about saving time, that's how you save time, because otherwise you literally have to watch almost like the whole meeting in order to be able to get that level of synthesis. So if I ask it, what are some examples of when you could use clips? Let's see if it's able to answer that question. So we're going to find out in real time here, by the way. We have not asked it that question before. Let's see.
Yeah, if you had an important discussion, onboarding new team members. Yeah, very accurate. We talked about all that.
It's just so powerful. So one of the things that you're wondering, again, I know everybody's getting excited and I can see the excitement in the chat. So this is really awesome. I want to show you something really cool. So this is like a fake one-on-one that you and I created, right? If you're wondering, how do I get to the actual meeting where this happened? So this was a while ago in our staging environment here. So if I click on this, it takes me to that meeting note, and then you get the beautiful Fellow interface. Again, what we love about what we're doing here is, again, Fellow is the holistic, all-in-one meeting management platform. It's not a point solution that does this or that. We're here to solve your meeting problem. Everything is beautifully integrated. So here's the meeting recap. I can click on it and go in, and this interface. But also, you now see something new here that jumps you into Ask Copilot very quickly. So when I click on this, you can see all of the chat history is here. And you can also get to it from the side. So in other words, like you jump into this meeting, right? Like you're running late. It's like a minute before the meeting. And you want to say, catch me up, what was talked about last time, right? It's been 2 weeks since we last chatted. I need to remember, and it'll just, be able to give you exactly what was talked about. So the next thing that I want to show you is a really, really cool prompt that I've been using in my one-on-ones, and we'll paste this in the chat as well, right? This is just an example of what you can do and how creative you can get. So this is a pretty short meeting. So this is a 3-minute recording. So not quite the perfect example for this, but what I did want to show you is what the prompt actually is. So it says, you're an executive assistant. You're going to give me a pre-meeting brief. And heading into the next iteration of this meeting, what do I need to know about the last one? Great question to ask. Are there any rapport building questions that I should ask the other person? Limit to 2 items. And is there anything I should remember to follow up on? Limit to 3 items.
I want to say, for the people in the audience, I think this is like a benefit of attending live, because you're sharing a prompt that you have been working on for a while, right? Like you've been like testing this prompt and got to this point. So it's a very cool hack.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do just to, we'll narrow this down. So I'll just get it to do part 3 just so we can focus on it. By the way, what happens when you do this in a one-on-one meeting is magical. So it'll say things like, so-and-so said that their daughter was in a dance competition and you should follow up on that, right? All these rapport building questions that previously the way you do that is you take private notes, you write these things down, you're a good manager and leader, and that's how you track those things. But now the Fellow Copilot can help you do that. It just literally almost turns you into this superhuman manager, super manager, and it just changes everything. So let's try this one, which is there anything I should remember to follow up on? And we're doing this live, so we'll see. Okay, so this is amazing. Ask about feedback or reactions the team has received so far from early access or beta users of the Meeting Copilot feature. I mean, the ability to do this, Manuel, I'll tell you one thing that it told me during a meeting, which was mind-blowing for me.
During a one-on-one?
Yeah, from a one-on-one, was I said, what should I follow up on? And it said, well, the last time you all chatted, you talked about this project, and the project details seemed very vague. It didn't seem like that project was very well fleshed out. Perhaps you can revisit that conversation and flesh out a bit more detail. I mean, that is like next level type suggestions, right? You can see how much of a better operator you can be by having a co-pilot like this at your side, sitting with you in every meeting. And now you're starting to get the sense that why do these people at Fellow and a lot of our early customers, why are they recording everything? And this is the reason, because it gives you these superpowers that you wouldn't have otherwise had access to. So lots of stuff that we're excited about here.
We're powerful. And I think you said this recently, but it almost feels like an unfair advantage, right? Like now I feel super luxurious. Like I have like a smart assistant to summarize all my meetings, catch me up to speed. It's so cool and feels like you said to me one day, like luxurious and like an unfair advantage to some people.
Super powerful. And it's one of those things where I just want everybody in the company to be able to have the same advantage. It just changes everything. So, okay, we've talked about this. Let's talk about a few more things. And one of which is, we've heard that Fellow Copilot is great. The problem is that we need to have a meeting scheduled in advance. And sometimes we jump into a meeting and we don't have it in the calendar. So Fellow Copilot, there isn't, a record button for us to press. So we've now solved that problem. And now you can get Fellow Copilot to join your meeting with a link. So there's a few places to get there, and we can list some of them in the chat, but one of the main ways that you can get there very quickly is if you go to the recordings page, you'll notice that there is a record now with URL option. So what I'm going to do is let me just grab our meeting link here. I'm just going to copy it.
Yeah, and while you grab that link, I'll just say this is so helpful when you have an ad hoc meeting. Like let's say someone calls you, like one of those impromptu calls, you join a Zoom call, you join a Google Meet call. And something I've felt recently, and I don't know about you, but if Fellow Copilot isn't there, I almost feel the anxiety that it's not taking my meeting notes correctly. Like nobody's recording the meeting and taking notes for me. So I need to have Fellow Copilot with me in every meeting.
Yeah. So this now gives you that ability. So super powerful. So we have Fellow Copilot joining. And the other thing is it does also create a Fellow note in the background. So you can open up the note. You can also have your manual interface to be able to do that. And in addition to that, it is going to put a private event in your calendar so that it's easily accessible. A lot of people access Fellow through their calendar. So you're going to have that option as well. So this in itself is super, super powerful. So now you have that access. The other thing that we wanted to quickly talk about are settings. So if I go to my user settings section, and by the way, you can see record now with URL from here, so fast access there. But if I go to my user settings, there's also some new settings now for Fellow Copilot. And this is really powerful. So sometimes you just forget, right? You just talked about the anxiety that you would get if Fellow Copilot's not there. The worst feeling is you're halfway through a meeting and you're like, we didn't invite Fellow Copilot. That's a problem. So now you could actually set it and forget it. So you can have it join all the meetings organized by you, or you can just say any meeting that I attend as well, just have Fellow Copilot join. And what I like to say is have Fellow Copilot be there. It's going to come into the meeting. It's going to request to be admitted. If for whatever reason you don't want it to be there, you can just, request it to leave. Very easy. It's better to have it be there than to forget and lose a whole bunch of content. So I usually like to just leave it on. And then the other thing is this send recaps function. The recap, everything that we showed you, you can share this with the attendees. So this is a way to keep everybody on track. Everybody knows and is on the same page. There's a record of what was discussed, right? And you can also do this with external users. So this is becoming a very popular use case for anybody who has customer calls, partner calls, and it just increases the professionalism, right? You have the meeting and then everything can be auto shared. Both parties know exactly what was committed to. And this is really powerful. So what I would do is I would also call this attendees and fellows. So all attendees, so anybody who is an attendee in the meeting can have access to those notes as well.
super powerful. And like you said, nothing more professional than someone who organizes a meeting and right after the meeting sends all the meeting notes and meeting recap. And now Fellow does that for you. So very, very cool.
Yeah. So we've talked about quite a few things. And now the other thing that we should also talk about is just going back to your concept of helping people spend less time in meetings, right? So we've talked about this in the past. So part of the thing that you've got to do, once you've got Fellow CoPilot, it's going to remove the FOMO. It's almost going to feel a little bit irresponsible to go to a meeting where you're not going to actively speak, because you should manage your time well, right? And you can watch it faster. You can ask Fellow CoPilot questions, and that's a faster way to get caught up. The other thing is it allows you to do this stuff on an asynchronous basis. So if your most productive time during the day is between, call it 10 to noon, you don't want to spend that time going to a meeting where you're not actively going to participate, right? You want to consume that meeting content maybe at 4 p.m. when your brain's already done super high value work. So it just gives you that kind of flexibility. But the other thing is that we now want you to implement a lot of the meeting guidelines. If you all remember when Shopify made a lot of news, and obviously, Shopify has been a customer for a while now, but Shopify made a lot of news. They're a very forward-thinking company, and they made a lot of news by canceling a whole bunch of their meetings and implementing things like a meeting cost calculator, and the whole world paid attention. I mean, CNN was reporting on this, Business Insider, like all the major publications, and it was really great to see. And then what happened was CEOs everywhere wanted to do the same thing. So many companies started creating meeting manifestos and they started implementing some of these changes. But what would happen is they would just create a bunch of this policy, they would put it in a wiki, and then nothing would actually happen. So what we decided to do was change things. And so there was a whole webinar on this, but we built this feature called Meeting Guidelines that actually allows you to take your meeting policy and your meeting manifesto and integrate it into your calendar. And I'm just going to show you very briefly here because this is...
Yeah, I think this will be a reminder for some people who attended our webinar, but I think it's important to show.
Yeah. So, if I'm able to, if I, for example, add you to this meeting, it automatically says, hey, that Fellow is a no meeting day on Wednesday, and it tells me not to do that. If I add my other email address to this, it says, hey, Aiden already has more than 24 hours of meetings. And the reason it calls that out is we don't want anyone at Fellow to have more than 20 hours of meetings a week, as an example. So all these different prompts, there's many, and I'm not going to go through them all, but all of these things have been incorporated into your calendar. So we launched this. It's been super successful. The case studies have been amazing.
Yeah, great feedback from operations leaders and CEOs using this to create better meeting cultures, right?
Huge. But the thing that people have been asking us is, how do we track our progress in this area? And so what we decided to do, and what I'm going to show you right now, is we've launched this new feature that we're calling Meeting Guideline Analytics. So you can get to it by going to your analytics page and then clicking on View Analytics. And as soon as you do that, you get to see this page. So all of your meeting guidelines, all of the things in your meeting policy, they now exist here, and you can see how you're doing against them. So for example, meetings without a description. You can see that this is not doing well, right? As a matter of fact, it's getting worse. People are creating meetings and they're not putting a description field there. And you can track this across your company. And on top of that, you can see what best in class looks like. Again, Fellow has access to, I don't know, tens of millions, maybe hundreds of millions of meetings, some insane number.
Yeah.
Right.
That's my favorite part about this meeting guidelines analytics section, Aiden. The fact that Fellow has so much data about other companies, and we can use that data to tell you what is considered best in class. So now if you're an operations leader, a CEO, you can come here and say, okay, like, how is my company doing compared to what is considered best in class for meetings?
This is exactly true. So, they say what gets measured gets managed. And so this is what you need to do. So this gives you that ability. Meetings with more than 8 attendees. Okay, this company's doing well here. Meetings during a no meeting day, close to best in class. That's good. Non-speedy meetings, we're actually making progress in that we're getting closer to the baseline there, right? And so all this to say is all of your meeting policy, and we won't go through all of these things, everything can be in one place, be located there.
One thing that I like about this, Aiden, is that you can also filter, right? Like you can say, like, show me how this department is doing.
Yeah, very good point. And thank you for pointing that out. You can filter by internal and external meetings, what period of time to look at. And like you said, you can look organizationally or even, for individuals and see how they're doing. So Very, very powerful. If you're serious about meeting transformation, these are the tools that can really help you do that.
I'm going to write that as the last talking point in our Fellow note. But before we move on to the Q&A, I have an action item there, Aiden. Do you want to remind people to RSVP to a special event coming up?
Yes. So we're doing something super special, and we're inviting a bunch of people who've been successful at this process of transforming their meeting culture. People who've created meeting policies, people who have created meeting manifestos, and really changed the behavior of large groups of people within organizations, CEOs, senior operations leader that have been successful at this. We're having a panel. It happens on May 16th. It's going to be amazing. And we'd be excited for you all to attend. This is going to be like one of those super jam-packed full of wisdom episodes.
I heard you'll be hosting the panel and also sharing some secrets about meeting culture at Fellow. So I'm looking forward to that. And we'll leave the link in the comment section. So I think we're ready to move on to the Q&A, right?
Yeah. So this has been amazing. Features are awesome. Now we're ready to answer your questions.
Yeah, join the live Q&A.